the question that came up had to do with building a scenario. So first thing is, if we have just a basic slide and we want to give people a couple of choices, if I play this right now, we'll see that I have a couple of options. Which option do I want to choose? Do I want to go to a red slide? Do I want to go to a blue slide? So if I click on go to the red slide, it takes me to a slide called red box and says this is a red box. I have a button where I can go back home, or I could go to a blue slide. So you can see pretty quickly that this is really a scenario-based learning. I could give a question up here at the top. What would you like to try? So what would I like to try? Well, do I want to go to the red? Do I want to go to the blue? Suddenly I'm in the matrix, I think. So from there, and again, I made this very abstract. That could be an image. That could be some written text saying, you know, would you try this option, or would you do these things, or which one do you think is a better choice? So you could structure this however you wanted to. But the point is just the sort of navigation of it that I wanted to show you. And the problem traditionally is that if I don't click on one of these specific areas, it's going to take me to the next slide. And so that's where the little trick comes in here. So what I'm going to show you first, whoops, kind of gave away the secret there. What I'm going to show you first is I'm going to switch over to this blank one and show you what I mean by that. So if I just create, let's say we create a couple of circles. I'm just going to make these a little bigger so we can see them. Okay, so if I have two circles, I'll make that one a different color. All right, and then I'm going to duplicate the slide, and I'm going to say this slide's going to be my orange shape, and this slide's going to be my sort of greenish shape. Okay, so to add the navigation in, the first thing you're going to do is select your shape, and on your insert ribbon, you have the choice to add an action. So when I add the action, what I can do is I can always hyperlink it to another place in the presentation. So I'm going to say, in this case, it would be the next slide, but I'm not going to say that. I'm always going to choose slide because this is going to let me choose specifically where I want to go. And you'll see in the other presentation when I go back over there that if you have titles on your slides, the titles will actually show up here. It makes it a little easier to make sure you're selecting the right one. So here's slide 2, and I'm going to say OK. And I'm going to say OK. And then if I click on this box, the action that I want to take is I want to go to the slide 3. And notice it gives you a nice little preview here. And I'm going to say OK and OK. All right. So I've got my basic setup. So let's just try this out and see what happens. So if I go here and then I click on the red or the orange, it takes me where I expect it to go. But then I don't have any way to get back. I'm kind of stuck there, right? And just to show you that the other works, if I'm at the beginning and I go into slideshow and I clicked on the green, see, it would take me to the green, but I still don't have any way to get back. So what we're going to do is we're going to put a little text box, and we'll just stick him over here. Oops. Text box, stick him back here, and we'll say we're going to go home. And then we're going to make this a little bit bigger so we can actually see it. All right, so we don't want to, we're on the home slide right now, so this, I'm going to actually cut this. I'm going to go over here to this slide. I'm going to paste it on this one. And then, oops, you know what, I'm going to stay here for a second, because I'm going to put the action on it first, because what happens is when I put the action on it, I can go ahead and copy it, and then it'll already have that on there. So then we're going to go to Insert, and we're going to go back to Action. And now this time, remember, what is it I want it to do? I want it to go back home. Well, home is my first slide. So that's slide 1. I say OK and OK. And then I'm going to copy that text box because it's still selected. I'll paste it over here, notice, okay? And then let's go try it out. So we go back to the beginning. Okay, if I click on the orange, okay, and now if I click home, Look at that. It takes me right back. I click on the green, takes me to the green, and takes me right back. Pretty magical, right? Okay. Now, we're still not done now. I mean, obviously, we could get much more complex about this. We could have multiple choices going off in different directions, and then on those pages or those slides, we could be branching out to others. The structure of it would be the same. It's always about applying an action to the shape that takes me back to where I want to return to. Okay, but here's the problem right now, or here's a problem. If I come up here, it was fine as long as I was clicking on the actual shapes. But what happens if I just click somewhere else, like on the white area back here? If I click there, notice it took me to the next slide, because that's what PowerPoint does when you click, right? It takes you to the next slide. So if I clicked on the white area again, it takes me through the slides. Well, that's not what I want, because I don't want to go linearly through the slides. I want it to only go where I want it to go. So this is where the little trick comes in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create another box, another shape, just a rectangle, that's going to cover the entire slide. Okay. Now, obviously, I don't want a big colored shape everywhere. So I'm going to say no fill, and I'm going to say no outline. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply an action to this invisible box. And this one is going to link me back to the same slide I'm on, which in this case is slide 1. I'm going to say slide 1. I'm going to say OK and OK. So what that means is if somebody clicks anywhere in this white area, it is going to take me to slide 1, which is where I currently am. So it's just going to keep me in that same location. So let's try this and see what happens. Okay, a little sneaky thing here. So I click. See, I'm you can't see, but I am actually clicking in these various spots. But the problem is if I try to click on my shapes, now my shapes aren't working. Okay, well that's because remember everything we do in PowerPoint is in layers. So it has to do with the position of these things. Right now my rectangle is sitting on top, over top of my other shapes. So if I drag it down here so that it's behind them, I could also have used my arrange features and said send it to the back. I'm just going to show you the sort of order here. So now the ovals are on top of the rectangle. So now let's try this again. And now if I click on the orange, I go where I thought I would go. And if I click on the green, I go where I thought I was going to go. And if I click on the white area, it takes me nowhere, which is what we wanted because we want to direct people through our scenario. So now, of course, we would have to also do this on the other slides because this slide would have the same problem that the first one had, which was if I click on the white area, it just takes me through the presentation. So you would have to apply the invisible box to other places. So that's what I did over here in the first example I showed you. Let's bring up the selection pane and I'll show you that what I did in fact was all of the buttons, and I renamed them so it'd be easier to see here, all of the buttons are on top of this invisible box layer. And then any text that it's just static. It's not anything people need to click on. It's just information they need to see on the screen. That's going to go behind the box. So that way, if I click in any of those areas, it doesn't trigger anything. So again, let's take a look at this example. Bring this up. So notice if I click anywhere on the white sections, it leaves me right where I am, which is what I want. If I say go to red slide, it takes me to the red box. And in this case, I added a little help button that would take me to a help screen. Maybe you need to give them a little help along the way. And then there's always a home button. And again, this is an overly simplified and not very attractive slide, but I just wanted to make it very abstract so that we could focus on the actual steps to take to create this effect. So I hope you find that helpful.